In this video, we'll be looking at the second half of 9.3, inverse sine. So we're going to do 9.3.2, inverse sine. And so what inverse sine is, it's the thing that undoes sine. So for example, you don't have to write this unless you feel like you need to. The inverse of addition is subtraction. It's like the opposite. The inverse of exponents, what did we use to get rid of exponents? Is roots. We use square roots or cube roots. And now we're going to do what we're doing today, is the inverse of sine is and how I read this is sine inverse of x. So this is sine of x, and this is sine inverse of x. Okay. So this is going to be our notation that we use to kind of get rid of the sign. Think of it like as the addition sign to get rid of subtraction. So we're going to use the same idea that we had from our last lesson, where if I have a right triangle, and we're told a focus angle, we want to label our right triangle based off our focused angle. So this is my focus angle. And once I know what my focus angle is, now I can label all the sides of my triangle. We had the hypotenuse like so. And then our opposite side, we're calling OPP, across from my focus angle. So I look across from here to find my opposite, and then my adjacent is the side touching the focus angle. We're going to be using the same equation, sine of x equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we're going to still use that equation, but now we're going to have to try to solve for x. We're going to try to solve for this x right here. So we're trying to figure out the angle using this information. So how we would do that is we would take the sine inverse of both sides. So I would say sine inverse undoes that sign. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So I would do like that. These cancel, and I have x equals sine inverse of the opposite over hypotenuse. So that's where the sine inverse is coming into play, is it's what helps us solve when x is inside of the sign. Last week we had x over here as a part of our fraction. Today we're going to put x in here, and we're going to be able to solve for x like this. So let's look at some examples. So say I'm given my focus angle is right here. This is now our x, our unknown. My right angle is here. And then we're going to call this 4, and we'll call this 5, like so. Now to solve for this, we're going to set up our sign. sine, then we plug in our angle, is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So we'll say sine of our angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Now my angle is x, so I'm going to plug in x right here. And then my opposite is 4. And my hypotenuse is 5. So now what I want to do is simplify the fraction first. So I'm going to go 4 divided by 5. We're going to be using our calculator quite a bit. So first thing I'll do is simplify this fraction. Top divided by bottom. And I get 0.8. Now this is where we use our new step to help us solve for x. So our new step is, how do I get rid of this sign right here in black? Well, I'm going to use the sine inverse from up here, right here where my pin is, sine inverse, sine inverse. So I'm going to apply the sine inverse to both sides, and that will cancel out the sine. So we'll say sine inverse, like so. This sine inverse cancels that sine, so I'm left with x. And then go equals. Now we have sine inverse of 0.8. This is where we have to use our calculator to finish this up. So different calculators have different ways of getting to the sine inverse. On my calculator, I have a sine right there, but that's not sine inverse. I'll delete that. So if I hit this I and V button, for me, that's my inverse button. And now it brings up sine inverse. For a lot of other calculators, it will have that second button. So let's make a note of that in our margins. Use the second button or inverse button to find sine inverse on your calculator. Okay, so let's go back to our problem right here. Here's my calculator. So I need to do sine inverse of 0.8. So to get to my inverses, I'm going to use my inverse or my second button. Click it. There's my sine inverse button. So I'll click sine inverse. Now I type 0.8. And then I hit enter. And I found that the angle measure is 53.1 degrees. Like so. And that's how we can use sine inverse, the inverse of sine, to help us solve for x when x is the angle. So x is inside the sine, and how do I get rid of sine? Sine inverse. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day.